on your throne.
Sit down for a moment. I told you tonight is pre-conference. So we have to lay foundation. The reaction will begin from tomorrow. The reaction. I'm laying foundations. When we say you are born of God, it means you believe that Jesus is the Christ. And because of that, divinity is introduced into your entity, your system. And because of that inoculation of your system with divinity, you are made to become a partaker of Christ. So the second thing that being born of God implies is that you are one with Christ. You are adopted into sonship. The third thing being born of God implies is that you begin to walk in the power of transformation. So that the things that made you a fallen entity before lose their power over you. Because you can't be born of God and be trapped in iniquity. It's not consistent with divinity. You can't be born of God and be a slave of sin. You can't be born of God and be weak in sickness. So everything that had power, everything that trapped the fallen man loses its power over you. That's the corridor of transformation. Transformation is not just living above sin. It's living above everything that mastered the fallen man. So sickness, poverty, limitation, backwardness, stagnation, all of those things lose their ability. They are trying to hold you, but they can't. Because new versions of you begin to evolve. New versions. Because the version they are able to trap is the weak man of the flesh. Now the man of the spirit has been born. And so the fallen forces are not educated enough to master the spirit man. He said, for the light shineth in the darkness. Dominion is not the absence of darkness. Is ruling even in the presence of darkness. So lust suddenly can no longer tame you. Sickness can no longer tame you. Jesus said if you drink any deadly thing, he calls it deadly. But if it enters you, even though it's deadly, it's useless on your inside. First John, look at scriptures. Let me give you scriptures. First John 3. From verse 7. Or let's read verse 9, since I don't have time. It says, whosoever is born of God, it said, doth not commit sin, for his seed remaineth in him, and cannot sin, because he is born of God. So when you are born of God, you are introduced into a new system of operation. This is beyond willpower. This is beyond discipline. You know, Paul, it took Paul time to come into this understanding. If you read Romans chapter 7 from verse 20 to 25, you will see that Paul was struggling. Because Paul discovered there were many laws operating on his inside. He said there is a law in me called the law of the mind that made me desire to do the will of God. He said, but in my attempt to do the will of God, I discovered there is another law in my members called the law of sin and death. He said the law of sin and death overrides my will and make me to do sin that I don't want to. So this thing is beyond an act. It's an organic reality that is locked into the fallen man. And if you go to chapter 8, Paul discovered there is another law that was introduced into us when we were born of God. He said the law of the spirit of life that is in Christ Jesus has set me free from the law of sin and death. So when you are born of God, a new system is introduced into you. That system is what makes you rise above the forces that trapped and mastered the fallen man. So the more you yield to God, the more you learn the ways of God and become spiritually minded, the more empowered that law becomes. And so the precursor for activating that law is spiritual mindedness. That's why I tell Christians, you can't be a Christian and hear testimonies of sickness and death as your predominant emphasis. You can't be a Christian and focus on sin and iniquity as your predominant emphasis. Because if you focus on corruption, you will of corruption reap death. But if you focus on the things of the spirit, you'll discover that law is empowered on your inside. You find many Christians, 99% of the music they hear come from the fallen world. And they think they can walk in dominion. You can't be one born of God because you have exposed yourself to the technology of the fall. You find Christians, all their friends are talking seduction, iniquity. Is something they delight in. When they are gisting about sin. They are exposing to death. Ask those who exercise dominion. All their conversations are within the premise of life. All my friends are people who know about God and manifesting. So if we sit and talk, it becomes an explosion. You'll hear somebody talk some things and you are not even talking, but the witness that comes from him chokes lust in your spirit. Choke it, because he says some things that awakens powers in your spirit. Meet some of the people we talk with. You sit down, somebody just looks at cancer. He says, let tumors dematerialize. He's just talking. And then you see people jumping. I had tumor on my breast, it has gone. I had tumor in my abdomen, it has gone. And then you are sitting there, come on. What he said here was not even powerful. How come? You will lose appetite for food. You will sit down, your friend, he calls somebody, say you are Matthew. You came from Limpopo. I'm seeing, and then you are wondering, who is telling you this thing? And the next thing, appetite, rise up. You can't hear such things and go and cooperate with the devil. It's not possible. The reason it looks as if nothing is at work in you is because you are exposed to the wrong energy. Those of us who are born of God, we live above the forces of the fall. And the way we do it is because we are exposed to things that makes us spiritually minded. So when we are talking about being born of God, we are talking about dominion over the forces of the fall. Because the inoculation of God in your spirit man empowers you and makes it impossible for you to be a slave. I don't know when last I took drug. Not because it's a sin. I'm exposed to frequencies. There are times when my body feels sick and I hear some testimonies. And something rising. I'm not saying don't take drugs. So don't get me wrong. It's not zeal. It's awakening. It's awakening. It's awakening. If I get to a point where I try, it doesn't work, I will. But I'm telling you that nothing has knocked me down. And it's possible that you can have a warfare around your health. And the Lord will instruct you, treat yourself. Go ahead and do it. There's nothing wrong with it. But what I'm saying is, as you journey in this rebirth journey, you will discover that you keep going to levels where everything that mastered the fallen man will lose its powers in your life. That's what it means to be born of God. Living above the powers of the elements. And number 4, please sit down, is victory over the world. 1 John 5 verse 4. It says, whatsoever is born of God overcometh the world. This is where dominion comes in. He said, this is the victory that overcomes the world, even our faith. Whatsoever is born of God overcometh the world. He said, this is the victory that overcomes the world. So this new order of life makes you a champion. You can't be in class and come last, because you are functioning beyond intellect. You are operating by an excellent spirit. The Bible said Daniel and his friends, they were 10 times better than their peers in everything the king asked of them, by the operation of the excellent spirit. You overcome. You are an overcomer. You go into sport, they are wondering whether you are running with 4 legs. You are literally manufacturing skills, and people watch you to learn new skills from you. It's called overcoming the world. Overcoming the world is not running away from the world. It's dominating the world. Because if you don't dominate the world, you can't bring the government of heaven. The reason you will speak and they will hear is because you are ahead of them. So everybody who is born of God is a champion in their respective spheres. You are among doctors, you are a doctor with a different. Because when you do everything that is in the books and it doesn't work, you have a healing finger. Yes. That's what happens to those who are born of God. Go into the business, apply the principles with them. But beyond the principle, there's such a thing called the hand of God. It came upon Elijah. He outran the chariots of Ahab. I'm saying this so that you have the consciousness. Don't come and say, oh, according to studies, they say it takes 20 years. Who said so? Your case is different. Don't lock yourself down by the experiences of fallen men. It took somebody 20 years. Does not mean it won't take you 6 months. So don't create a limitation around your life. You have overcome the world. When it says overcomes the world, it's not just talking about the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, the pride of life. That's inclusive. But it's saying, lead everywhere you come. You are the head and not the tail. You are on top and on top only. That is now your position because you are born of God. How can God be involved in a marathon and lose? How can God be involved in a scientific research and lose? It can't work. At the age of 12, Jesus sat down with the doctors of the law. The Bible said he was asking them questions and he was answering them. Because he asked questions that they couldn't answer. He had to answer himself. He wasn't answering their questions. A boy of 12 years asked professors questions and they couldn't answer, and he answered. And you are saying, God, this sociology is so hard. I don't know why I'm not understanding anything I'm reading. Not you. You understand everything you read because you have the mind of Christ. All you need to do is a new consciousness that unlocks your abilities. This is what God has brought us into. Do you think you can talk and kings will hear you because you come in the dress of a spiritual man? You must manifest a light that they have never seen. He said, Gentiles, come to your light. He said, kings, come to the brightness of your rising. Listen, before you tell the king that Jesus is Lord, you must present something that they know that this is beyond the realm of men. You can't be failing and attracting them to your God. Your God that produces failure, is that the God they want to listen to? Without God, they are already doing well. You need to show them that there's an excellent realm where God can take them. And beyond that realm, there is also eternity in view. But they must see the residue of eternity in your today. He said, whoever is born of God overcomes the world. So you overcome all the lust of the world. But over and above that, you also rule above the systems of this world. Daniel had an excellent spirit, 10 times better. You know, when Joseph came before the Pharaoh and interpreted Pharaoh's dream, Pharaoh said, in as much as God has shown you this, he said, there is no one in your class. He said, according to your word, let the nations be ruled. You have demonstrated a wisdom that nobody in Egypt has. Who else can be above you? Who else? So on one side, the guy refused to sleep with Potiphar's wife. That's a dimension of the word. But that's not all there is to it. On another side, he explained what the wise men of Egypt could not explain. So when we say you have overcome the world, we mean you are not a slave of the forces of lust and of Satan. And over and above that, you are also a leader in your own sphere of influence. You are a leader. I prophesy over someone. The grace that sets you apart, the grace that puts you on top, it rests upon you now. My time is gone. A day will come when we will have fellowship beyond the stars, where time does not exist. Time. We will just be there for forever and ever. I was with Pastor Randolph yesterday, and we were there till 1 a.m. What a fellowship. And God was moving till 1 a.m. That day when you don't bother, how will I get home? Because the presence is home. Champions will rise from among us. Champions will rise from among us. I said champions will rise from among us. Sit down, let me round up. What I wanted to teach on tonight, I've not even entered. I wanted to teach on the 7 dimensions of the man born of God. The 7 dimensions. Maybe as I have opportunity in the course of this conference, I will touch them one after the other. But let me list them. My friend said yesterday that land is one of the 7 powers of God, and he didn't say more. Let me list so that you go and study it. Glory to God. Number 1 is the divine life. Every man who is born of God carries the life of God. Number 2 is immortality. Immortality is authority over corruption. Number 3 is the womb that births nations. That's what you also call the mind of Christ. Number 4 is the faith of the Son of God. That's the eyes that does not see impossibility. Number 5 is the authority of Christ. That's the power to rule in the demonic realm and in every other realm there is. Number 6 is the righteousness of God. That's the authority to reign in life. And number 7 is the witness of the Holy Ghost. When a man shows up in the place, he brings the literal government of heaven. See, the reason we show up and somebody said, I'm sick, and you say you are healed. You know, you are not saying be healed. You are overriding that reality. I'm sick, you say no, you are healed. That means I'm telling you healing is your reality, not sickness. And that reality that you create dominates the old reality. That is witness. It's beyond talking. It's witness. If what I'm saying to you tonight is just an information, I wasted your time. But you will discover as you leave this place that most of the things I've been sharing, you'll start seeing the manifestation. Then you will know that beyond what you hear, your reality is being reprogrammed. That's the difference. Most of you will leave this meeting, you will discover that the capacity to bring divinity to a place will happen to you. You are in a place, people are complaining, struggling. You just talk and things change. Even you will not know how. You are somewhere, somebody say, I'm dying. I don't know what's happening. Say, no, you can't die now. How can you say you are dying? You didn't pray. And the person will turn 5 minutes later and say, the pain is gone. I'm well. What has happened? You have brought God. See, this thing is not religion. It's life in the spirit. It's life in the spirit. It's life. Somebody shows up confused. He doesn't know what to do. And you are just gisting with him and you say, why don't you do this and do that? It becomes a prophetic direction. And then he says, that's the answer I've been looking for 10 years. That's the realm we are talking about. So when we share these things, we are introducing men to realms. That's what apostolic authority comes to make happen. Let it flow, let it flow. So let it flow right here, right now. And as the river flows, it begins to bring every death into life. It's a life-giving river. So let it flow right here, right now. I was sharing with them in Manchester 3 weeks. Is it 3 or 4 weeks ago like this? And a woman came with crutches, struggling. No prayer. Madam, you are in an atmosphere of power. Drop it. And she thought it was a joke. Yeah, drop it. And she dropped it. She started walking. And the leg was gaining strength. The leg. What I needed to do was just to channel her consciousness. I didn't need to close eye and say, now sickness go. You can do that. But there's a realm where everything is open to songs. Everybody can manifest. Drop it. You are in an atmosphere. Take what you want. The word is Catalambano. Don't wait for. Take it. And the woman was running. She was running. She couldn't stop. She was so excited. That means I could drop this crutch before now. Yes. It's not about the meeting. It's about the consciousness. You You have been brought into an economy. And that's where we live every day of our lives. Church is designed to train, to equip, and to enhance, so that we carry to our reality. Nobody left that meeting saying, oh, powerful man of God. Everybody became aware that we could drop crutches. And if we can drop crutches, we can tell others to drop them. By the time I finish here tonight, casually, 2 months will leave people. I was preaching in Kaduna 1 month ago, and when I finished teaching, I said, if you are healed, come out. And some people were looking at me. You have not prayed for the sick. I said, I don't need to pray. He said, Jesus was teaching and the power of God was present to heal. The power has intelligence to heal. He knows those who need it. And over 40 people came out. Over 40. And I'm not saying I had pain on my back. No. A woman that was bedridden, who was healed listening to the message online, and then had an accident, broke her leg, was walking. Bones had received strength. Not because prayer, but because, you know, when we are talking about your reality, you are awakened. Because your spirit is telling you, this is who I am. Some of you, by hearing me now alone, nobody can reject you again. Nobody can reject you. Because now you know I am not rejectable. I'm not. There's something on my life. Some of you, by hearing what I'm sharing tonight alone, you will discover that more than 50% of your warfare will finish. Because we know that, oh, demons are actually afraid of me. My God. That means when I get home, anyone remaining there is in trouble. Somebody give the Lord a shout.
Oh, reverse.
Hear me. See, some of you, by hearing what I'm sharing now, you will go and start that business. That company that you were feeling inferior, how can I start a company? You will just go and discover that the power is there. The power was always there. And you will start. Some of you who have been struggling with ministry, struggling with what you are doing, you just discover now that gods don't struggle with what they do. And things will change. Things will just be changing every day. Let it flow, let it flow. Let it flow, let it flow. Let it flow, let it flow. So let it flow right here, right now. And as the river flows, it begins to bring every death into life. It's a life-giving river. Oh, let it flow right here, right now. As the river flows,
As the river flows,
it begins to bring every death into life.
It's a
life-giving river.
Oh, let it flow right here, right now.
You know what I'm picking now? There's a flow of the energy of life. Some of you, that things have died in your hands. Some of you, things, you have lost things that you were in charge of. Something will flow now. You won't just have restoration, but you'll become a force in those areas. And suddenly nothing can die around you again. Oh my God. Oh my God. Okay, let me show you what I'm saying now. Bring 3 people for me now. I want to begin to release it. I'm the one with the mic, so I can give administration. Bring 3 people here now. The river. No, don't come. Receive where you are. Well, those of you who are here, don't worry, you will receive. Just lift that hand. Lift those hands. Oh my God. If you know where God has brought us, we are demonstrators. He said, I did not come to work to you with excellency of speech. I came in the demonstration. In the demonstration. Father, let that river flow now. Let 3 of you be drowned. 3. I just said 3. Now be drowned. Be drowned. Be drowned. Be drowned. Be drowned. What shall accept them from you? Oh my God. Now, some of you will be drunk in the spirit. You'll be drunk. Be drunk in the spirit. Let the waters of life flow into your vessel. Let it flow. 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 What shall accept them?
Let it
Let it
flow.
flow, let it flow. Let it flow, let it flow. Let it flow
Right here, right now. And as the river flows, it begins to bring every damn thing to life. It's a life-giving river. Oh, let it flow right here, right now.
Bring them to the altar. Bring them
La
here.
la 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 la.
Bring them here.
La 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 la.
La 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 la. Mehila kapera davuda savak.
Let it flow, let it flow. Let it flow,
Let it flow. Let it flow, let it flow. Oh, let it flow
right here, right now. As the river flows, bring everything to life. Life-giving river. Oh, let it flow right here, right now.
You know, God told me He was going to give 7 things to men in the course of this meeting. 7. I was telling the volunteers yesterday. The first is light. Light. You know, light is the power to bring judgment. When we say light, we are not just saying you know some things. It's authority to bring judgment, because the light shines in the darkness. The power of light is revealed in darkness. So what God is saying is that He will give authority to some of you to begin to judge darkness, to judge evil, to judge wickedness, to judge iniquity. And light is also the power for visibility. He said that which makes manifest. Bring them up so they don't fall on themselves. He said that which makes manifest is light. This is why somebody can be doing something and suddenly, poof, he explodes everywhere. And everywhere is noised abroad. It's light. He said the land of Zebulun, the land of Naphtali, by the way of the sea beyond Jordan, Galilee of the Gentile. The people that sat in darkness, they saw a great light. When light comes, the power for influence is conferred. Can you lift your right hand toward heaven? Oh, it's your spirit that will catch it. Oh, your spirit. Your spirit. Your spirit. For the light shineth in the darkness. It shineth. It's your light that will attract men and men of relevance to you. They say Gentiles, they don't come to you. They don't need you. But they come to your light. And he said, kings, come to the brightness of your rising. There are many things you are doing that you need kings, but you need light. When light comes, the presence of kings is a byproduct. Father, let the power for light rest upon them now. Bring these people up first. Bring them up first. Let me manage what is happening here.
Life-giving river. Oh, let it flow right here, right now. The Lord of hosts,
Lift your hands toward heaven.
the King.
Some of you will receive light that empowers for judgment. You will talk. You will talk. Policies will be changed. You will talk. Demons will flee. You will talk. Evil will stop. Some of you will receive light that brings visibility. Suddenly kings will start looking for you. Men will seek you like precious jewels. And some of you will receive light that will give you influence in your generation. Lift your hands up now. Lift your hands. Let those encounters begin. Help them, help them. Let those encounters begin. Holy Ghost, carriers of light, carriers of light. I'm seeing men with power to judge, men with power, women with influence and visibility. Wherever you are standing, I bring you under the government of light. Step into that glory.
Yahweh, Sabaoth, the Lord